not going to check the tickets. Everyone's probably booked onto the tour. Okay, everybody, welcome to the Brit Movie Tours Wizards London Tour, which we all know as the Harry Potter Tour, but we can't call it that for copyright reasons. I'm your guide today. My name is Richard. If you forget my name, call me Ron. That normally tends to be a bit easier to remember. Throughout the next 2 to 2.5 hours, I'm going to be taking you around London, showing you some of the locations from both the Harry Potter books and the Harry Potter films. A few things before we get started. Okay, as we're going around the tour today, please do fire any questions you have at me about the Harry Potter books, films, or about the making of them. We're going to be talking a lot today about how the films were made and lifting a lot of the film secrets. When JK Rowling had the idea for Harry Potter, she was actually in London. She was getting a train into London that day. And then she ended up living in London for the next 5 years as she was writing the Harry Potter books. When she was walking around London, she would often see things, so she would see buildings and go, okay, that's a good building to use, or she'd have ideas, and she would write them straight into the book. So that means that when we're going around London today, you can actually see what she was thinking. You can come to the original place that she was in when she had the idea. You can come to the spot that she mentioned in the books, and you can kind of see how they appear in the films as well. So with that, does anyone have any idea which Harry Potter book mentions this spot and which film was filmed here? Any guesses?
First one, aren't it? I thought it was the first one.
Nice try. We're in Harry Potter 5, Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, because they actually filmed inside here for that film. And the reason is quite cool. In Harry Potter 5, we see something quite important for the first time. We see the Ministry of Magic. Now, until now, we've only ever heard about it. We have seen Cornelius Fudge, the really powerful minister for magic, but we've never actually seen the ministry. It's quite a scary place, This is where spells are invented. This is where all of the orders, those really powerful sort of soldier wizards and kind of dark magic. So it's a really important and quite a scary place. And for the first time, Harry is visiting it. At the start of Harry Potter 5, Harry is attacked by a Dementor, one of those big floaty things in the book. And to fight off the Dementor, he casts a Patronus charm, his big stag thing comes out the end, and it fights off the Dementor. But by doing that, Harry has broken the first wizarding law. He's done magic in front of a Muggle, which means that he is put on a full criminal trial. So he has to come into the Ministry. Where is the Ministry of Magic? Well, it's obviously in Westminster, the centre of London where the Muggle government is. So he has to come here to go to the Ministry. To get to the Ministry that day, he uses the London Underground. He uses this thing. So Harry has been staying in 12 Primrose Place, that's Sirius Black's house, that's over there somewhere. And on the day that he visits the Ministry, he gets the Jubilee line, that is the grey coloured line, you can see it on the sign there, into the bottom of the station. He comes up the steps over there, and then he and Mr. Weasley walk out through those barriers there, heading towards the Ministry of Magic. This is actually how it appears in the film. It's basically the same station. I don't know why I bother showing you this, but that's how it looks in the film. Harry and Mr. Weasley come through the barriers. They actually come through the third barrier from the end on that side. If you want to get a picture of it, please feel free, but it's exactly the same as every other barrier in London. And then they walk off to the Ministry together, and in a second, we will follow them in their route to the Ministry that day, and we will go and find out where the entrance to the Ministry of Magic actually is. But some people might remember, when they try to go through that barrier, it doesn't go very well. Does anyone remember what happens when they try and go through the barrier? Quite hilarious. Exactly right, Gryffindor, right? 10 points to Gryffindor. Mr. Weasley doesn't know how to go through the barrier. He's a Muggle. He's a wizard. He doesn't understand those things, and to be fair, they are quite scary if you're not used to them. First of all, he tapped his magical hand against the Oyster card reader. Doesn't work, so Harry has to take a pink sort of daily travel card thing. He slots it through, and Mr. Weasley falls through backwards, looking really happy with himself. He's just done something quite cool. And then they walk off to the Ministry. Now, the behind-the-scenes story about this is that wasn't meant to happen. That wasn't meant to be in the script. This movie is already the longest Harry Potter film. It's over 2.5 hours long. So what the director, David Yates, wanted to do was film these scenes really quickly and then go home. He was like, no, the film's already so long, let's just try and do this as quickly as possible. It was down to the actor, Mark Williams, who plays Mr. Weasley, and he was reading the script and he said, that's a bit boring, isn't it? I can do better than that. So every single time the director went action and they started filming, Mark would do something else stupid, you know. He'd try and climb over the barrier, he'd try and like limbo under it, and the director would go, cut, stop it Mark, do it again, and they'd go again, and Mark would do it again, and eventually they just ran out of time. They had to move on. David Yates went, oh, fine, and they kept that quite funny scene in the film, and that part of the film actually became quite funny because Mark kept doing silly things. Why did they have so little time to film it? That's actually quite a cool story as well. So, this is Westminster Station. It is one of the most important stations in the country because this is how the MPs and politicians get to work every day. If you close this station down, they can't get to work and the country stops. The whole government stops. So Harry Potter shouldn't have been allowed to film here. They only filmed here because of an accident, really. When they got in touch with Travel for London that owned the station to say, Harry Potter's meant to be in Westminster, can we film here? Westminster thought it was such a stupid concept to close down the station that they said, okay, fine, you can film here as long as you pay us this ludicrous amount of money. It was, I don't know how much it was well into the millions. And they thought, okay, Warner Brothers will realise they're being stupid and they can't film here. Warner Brothers basically went, okay, great, let's do it. And Travel for London had to send an email to Warner Brothers saying, we're sorry, you're so much richer than we thought you were. You really can't film here, this is where the government works. So they actually had to negotiate a deal. They filmed at night. So this station closes at 1 o'clock in the morning. It reopens at 5 o'clock in the morning. That's 4 hours to bring everything down here. You know, they carried the cameras down the stairs, they brought in all the crew, all of the cast, everyone there that we see in these scenes is an extra. They were filming in the middle of the night and they just tried to make it look as real and daytimey as they could. Mr. Weasley and Harry walk off in that direction, down that tunnel towards the Ministry of Magic, and the cool thing is we can actually follow the route they took that day. We can walk exactly in the footsteps of Harry. When he was there that day, he was very unhappy. As far as he knew, he was about to get kicked out of Hogwarts. So Harry hates London, he hates this place, but we like it this summer and we're all on holiday. So with that, we are going to follow their route. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, follow me, my friends.
Follow the Muggle.
Follow me.
Down streets there, look. Sugar TV she's in.
You can have a walk right there in a bit.
I don't even know. This time, I don't know. Monitor there, look.
That was loud. Being blasted by a laser. Okay, we're just stopping here quite quickly. because here is, as far as we can tell, exactly where JK Rowling was standing when she had the idea for the Ministry of Magic. Now she's talked about this in interviews and things like that, but every day before Harry Potter was published, JK Rowling would walk down this street to work. She worked just down there on the right at Amnesty International. So she would get the tube into Westminster Tube Station and she would walk down the road. And one day she learned something that she thought was really interesting. All around us now we are surrounded by government buildings. Over there we've got Big Ben and the Houses of Parliament. Right here we've got the Foreign Office. That's the War Office behind me, the Ministry of Defence. And these black gates here are the black gates to Downing Street. 10 Downing Street is just there. Now what's really interesting about these buildings is that they're all connected under the ground. There is a really massive network of reinforced concrete and stone tunnels underneath there that actually connects down into the old Roman tunnels and sewers that the city's built on. So they're underneath there as a massive rabbit warren of kind of never-ending tunnels, like a big maze. And what JK Rowling realised is that that is the Ministry of Magic. That's the idea behind it. So when we see the Ministry, it's always really big and really dark and really sprawling. You know, you can go through lots of tunnels and never know where you are. It's because it's all underground right now and it's really, really big. It stretches from Westminster Abbey all the way up to Trafalgar Square. It's just really, really deep. We actually see how this works in one of the Fantastic Beasts movies, because the second Fantastic Beasts movie, The Crimes of Grindelwald, actually starts in the air up there. The camera's in the air and then it pans down through the ground, past the War Memorial, straight through the concrete, through layers of pipes and stone and soil, and right underneath the ground about here is where we actually see Newt Scamander, played by Eddie Redmayne. He's in the Ministry, so we see exactly how it works. Again, what we need to do now is try and find the two entrances, because there are two entrances from the Wizarding World. There are two entrances from street level, and we can see them both today.
But on GoPro, well look, there's a guard over there and a horse. Oh yeah, one of those as well.
Yeah, right there. That's
Right there.
Can you see his head on the wall there?
Oh really?
Yeah, to mark where it was. Right on the curve there. That's where they've got the gallows. It's dark for a Harry Potter tour. Okay, so actually let's skip forward a bit now to another film. We are still following the route that Harry and Mr. Weasley took in Harry Potter 5, but there are two entrances to the Ministry of Magic, and in a later film we see the other one. So, hands in the air, does anyone know what the two entrances to the Ministry are? Go for it. Toilet, you want it in one. So we're talking about the toilet right now. If you are a Ministry of Magic employee, every day you have the honour or the privilege of climbing into a pooey toilet and flushing yourself into work. It's a brilliant metaphor for the modern age. And actually that's where we're standing right now. So if I show you a picture of it, of how the toilet looked when they were filming, can anyone spot it? Yes, this is a trick question. Exactly right, and you found it as well, so you're both right. It was right there in the middle of the road. In Harry Potter 7, Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, Harry needs to break into the Ministry. So he, Ron and Hermione use Polyjuice Potion to turn themselves into Ministry of Magic employees. That's Albert Runcorn, Reginald Catamol and the Founder Hopkirk, and they break into the Ministry through the toilet. But if I show you the picture of the toilet as it looked in the films, you can see a problem. It's not here anymore. In actual fact, it was never really here. That was just a prop that was brought in for filming, because always there has been this statue here and this really cool looking, you know, metal gate. Now the cool thing about this is, although there's no actual toilet here, we know exactly where they had to film here because this toilet is mentioned in Pottermore, the website that JK Rowling put all of her extra Harry Potter stuff in. And actually there is a reason why the toilet is here. It's that. So you might recognise that. That's quite a famous place. That's Horse Guards. Horse Guards Barracks. It's an army base. It's a very old army base, and it's famous for having guards on horses. You can see them today. They are in red, which means they are members of the Lifeguard regiment, but sometimes they're in blue. That means they're blues and royals. That's what Prince Harry was. But as you can see, those soldiers are standing or sitting on horses holding swords and shields. Now, the reason for that is they are not actually muggles. Those guys are wizards. The reason they're wearing you know, armour and they're carrying swords is that they're not trying to protect us from muggle threats. They are there to protect us from magical threats. All of that armour is goblin made and it's been impregnated with basilisk venom, just like the sword of Gryffindor. So they can fight off horcruxes and basilisks and goblins and anything like that. And the reason they are there, overlooking the road, is to guard the Ministry of Magic, which has an entrance right here. You wouldn't expect that, would you? It's really silly, but it's all connected. JK Rowling literally had all of that planned out. So in the film you can see that we are here because those are actually Ministry of Magic guards. And Harry, Ron and Hermione need to trick those guards to get inside. I promise you that's the most convoluted story I'll tell you this entire tour, because that really is a bit weird, that one, isn't it? But I love it anyway. Would anyone like to get any pictures of Horse Guard before we move on?
I already did.
Please do feel free. We'll take a very slow walk down the road to the other entrance, and if you want to get a picture, please feel free to grab it on the way.
We'll have a walk later.
I never knew that.
Stick that in your bag before I bloody drink any more.
If these streets are looking a bit familiar to you, that's because these streets are actually the most filmed with locations in the world. These streets appear in almost every film set in London ever because, well, they look how we want you to think London actually looks rather than it really looks. I mean, it looks too nice, doesn't it? It looks how we all think London should look. This is where James Bond always parks his Aston Martin. Doesn't matter what film it is or what part of the film it is. He'll drive across, he'll set off from over there, drive across London and park over here. It works like that.
You can walk by Scotland Yard, you know.
Yeah, there.
No, you know, like the big Scotland Yard sign?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
We've got around to get a look, but we're standing in somewhere that hopefully looks a little bit familiar right now, even if you can't quite tell why. This is where we always see that we're about to go to the Ministry of Magic. So, as we all know, the Ministry of Magic is under the ground. It's a big green marble room underneath us right now, but it's this junction that we always get that establishing shot of, that one quick look to show us this is the Ministry. It's all about tricking your, tricking your subconscious. Your subconscious will remember, okay, this bit is the Ministry. Every time we see this means we're at the Ministry. And the first time we see it is in Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. So Harry is still going on trial. He's still walked down the road over there. Here Mr. Weasley have turned right down the James Bond Street, turned left, gone underneath the bridge, and then they've walked across this curb here into the visitors entrance to the Ministry of Magic, which you may remember is actually a red telephone box. Now that red telephone box, you can see it here in the still, was actually just there around the corner if anyone wants to get a look when you can. And when you go around the corner, it was just in front of those steps on a kind of unmarked bit of ground. Now that was actually a prop, and the reason it was brought into filming was because they really wanted to film with these streets. These streets looked really good and they were in the right place, but they didn't have a telephone box here, so they needed to bring their own. So Harry and Mr. Weasley go inside the red telephone box. Mr. Weasley puts in a very special number, and then it goes down through the ground. It goes down, 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 and reappears again.
What number is it?
We'll go over that in a minute. We are going to talk about that, don't worry. It goes down, down, down into the big green room with the fireplaces, the statues, the offices, sort of the main bit of the Ministry. So we know that is underground right now, right beneath us, and then the ministry spreads around us in like an arc. Harry and Mr. Weasley underground then walk off in that direction towards the dungeons, which is where he's having his trial. So as you mentioned, Mr. Weasley puts in a very special number, and no one's ever got this on any of my tours. For 100 points to your house, 50 points for the number, 50 points for the reason. Does anyone know what number it was? It's mentioned in both the books and the films.
200?
Not 200. We see it really quickly in the film, they do get it in there.
150?
150, no, but I like the attempt, I like the effort. It's got a very weird reason.
151?
Not 151, but I love those. You're actually getting closer. It's like it's a few years to get there, but you are getting closer.
152?
It's not that. It is.
Oh,
Is it
nice car.
Not that either. I'm going to tell you all. It's 62442, which is quite a big number. It would have taken us quite a while to get there. Anyone know the reason for it?
Spells magic.
Oh! First time in 10 years someone's got that. Yes, what house are you?
Gryffindor.
50 points to Gryffindor. Well done, guys. It does. So, we all know what the Dark Ages are, right, don't we? The Dark Ages are the time before iPhones, when we were still using brick phones. If you wanted to text the word magic on a brick phone, you would use the numbers 6, 2, 4, 4 and 2. You'd stand there all day tapping that number until you got the right letter. It would literally take... I actually talked to her about this when we filmed Fantastic Beasts 3, and I said, JK, you realise that means the password to the Ministry of Magic is the word magic? And she was like, oh yeah, that's not very secure, is it? But I think it works both ways. So they go down into this big ministry room. That's actually a studio set, and that's still standing. You can still see that on the Harry Potter studio tour. And if you go in there, you'll see it again. So what they do is they cut very quickly between the locations out here and the studio, and you don't tend to notice the switch. It's done quite smoothly because they all look real, those sets. Harry Potter was filmed about 30% on location and about 70% at the studio, and when they were filming in location it was almost always somewhere like this, like central London, so they could get those things you just can't get from the studio. What they want to do is make it look as real as possible and get all of that real story in wherever they can, so that is why they'd come to London. Fun fact for you, that Harry Potter film studio, the studio tour, is still a working film studio, and you can see films filming there to this day. They don't want you to, but you can do. If you're in the car park, you'll notice it's like surrounded by mysteriously thick and bushy trees. If you walk through the trees, you'll go straight through them and hit a fence, and behind that fence you will currently see things like Mission Impossible filming. Or you would if they weren't all on strike right now, but you'll still see the sets, you'll see the Fantastic Beasts sets, they're all still there today. It's a really, really cool thing to see. We do come back to this location several times in the Harry Potter film series, but the major time is back in Harry Potter 7, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, there we go, where Harry, Ron and Hermione use Polyjuice Potion to turn themselves into Ministry of Magic workers. Now when they do that, they come up with an elaborate scheme to kind of distract the worker, to stupefy them, and then to drag them away. Go for it. It's here, exactly right. So what happens is, and when you go back and watch the film, you're able to see this. Ministry of Magic worker walks down the road, heading towards the toilet. Ron is hiding behind that wall there. There's actually quite a famous shot of him doing that around that corner. Ministry of Magic worker walks across the road, Ron distracts them, they look around, Harry stupefies them, and then they drag them into that door there. They actually drag them into that little garage. It's not very nice in real life. It's got a load of trash cans in there and some, you know, some rubbish. It's the building's sort of rubbish dump. But they do drag them inside there. That's where Hermione has got her Polyjuice Potion thing going. And then in a minute, they head over towards the toilet entrance. I just like to draw attention to this. So, this is a scene from the film, right there. That's how they looked when they were filming that scene. And in the behind the scenes picture, you can see they've got an umbrella over them, even though it's a nice day. Anyone got any idea why we might need to put umbrellas over our actors when they're not filming, even if it's sunny?
To stop them from sweating.
kind of close, sort of close.
They don't want to see.
Don't want to see them. That's a good idea as well, but that's not the exact reason. It's because of people like me. People like me and Rupert Grint are pale and ginger. It takes us about 20 seconds in the sun to turn from ghostly pale to burnt bacon colour. And earlier on in the all the gingers are nodding, I love it. In the Harry Potter film series, you can notice that Ron will change colour throughout a scene. It's quite funny, and they got mocked for it quite badly. So after Harry Potter 3, Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, a rule was put in place that a poor underpaid runner would need, normally me to be honest back in the day, would need to follow the actors around with an umbrella wherever they went just to keep them the same shade throughout the day. And we still see it, you know, in action there. There's a poor runner back there holding that umbrella above Daniel Radcliffe's head for no reason at all. Any questions? Would anyone like to get pictures with the square before we move on? People often like to recreate that famous picture of Ron on that corner looking around it. If you want to Google that, kind of get the phrasing right, please feel free to do that. We can linger here for a few minutes before we move on if you want to.
Do you want me to post filming for now?
People are looking like kind of want to do it. Kind of like
which one being in a bit? No, because I'm just concerned about being with this public.
Yes, exactly right. So we're actually in an area called Great Scotland Yard right now. The police famously moved out to their new police headquarters, which is New Scotland Yard. That's about 5 minutes over there. That's what we see on the news. But these two buildings behind me, these quite fancy ones, are where the police were originally based. That's why it's called Great Scotland Yard. That's the name of the police headquarters. That side of the building is now a hotel, but this side is actually still a police building. This is now a horse stables for police horses. That's why it smells of poo around here, if anyone's wondering. It's horses. And you can sometimes see horses through the windows. If you walk past, you look through those gates over there. You'll see a big sort of ramp the horses go up, all their stirrups and riding equipment are all in there, so you can kind of see what it's like. Any other questions? This area is actually used again in another film in a very weird coincidence. If anyone's a fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the Ministry of Magic also appears in that in a different film.
The second one, when Connor is going to Hagrid's hood, because he goes to the spells to
You're right, it is also in Harry Potter, but it's a non-Harry Potter film. So we do see it in that Harry Potter film, but we see it in an entirely different series. The Ministry of Magic makes an appearance. It's in Doctor Strange. So in Doctor Strange, there's a version of the Ministry of Magic. It's called the London Sanctum. It's basically the same thing. And they use the same buildings in the same way. It's like a little joke. It's meant to be the exact same place, which is quite cool, I think. Everyone happy? Any questions? Okay, let's keep walking our way down this passage. Most famous locations in London, of course, St. Paul's Cathedral. You can do the actual St. Paul's Cathedral tour anytime you want. So I am going to tell you what they don't say to you on St. Paul's Cathedral. This is St. Paul's Cathedral. This one dates back till 1710, so that's about 300 years. But there was actually another St. Paul's Cathedral here before that, and before that, and before that. The one before this burnt down in 1666 with the Great Fire of London, but there has been a church or a temple of some sort on this site ever since the Romans built a temple to the goddess Diana thousands of years ago. St. Paul's Cathedral would reach the pinnacle of its career when it was chosen as a Harry Potter film location. I'm going to show you a picture now, and everyone's going to do this. They're going to go, because you'll know it, but you won't know what it is. Seeing the faces.
It's stomach now, isn't it?
There we go. So this is every single staircase inside Hogwarts. It's shapeless. It's used as everything. divination tower. This is where Professor Trelawney sees the future. So her classroom is at the top there, and her classroom is like at the top of a tower, and this is the staircase that goes up to the top of the tower. In the fourth film, it becomes the Defense Against the Dark Arts classroom, and that's where it's journey.
Giờ mày phận phăng này đến bây giờ.
I know what you mean, but you're all right. We see it constantly in the film. It's shameless. They never make it look any different, and it's always just the same staircase. In real life, that staircase is actually part of St. Paul's Cathedral, and you can see it. It's over there. So, do we all see the clock tower to the far left corner? That is actually the staircase up to the clock tower. That's how you go and see it. So if you go on a St. Paul's Cathedral tour, you can go and see this staircase in real life. It's fantastic. And it was used all the time for Hogwarts. I like to mention one specific story that happened here. So there is a scene in Harry Potter 3 when this is the divination tower where Hermione gets really annoyed at Professor Trelawney. She throws Trelawney's crystal ball down the stairs, lands here, and Harry takes it back up to her, going back into her classroom. When he goes in, Trelawney grabs him. She says it's all going to happen tonight. So you're thinking it's the night that Sirius Black comes back. Lupin turns into a werewolf. Peter Pettigrew is revealed to be Scabbers. It's the big shocking bit of the movie. Everyone remember that. Everyone remember Lupin turning into a werewolf. So Lupin turns into a werewolf. He goes fluffy. He looks at the moon, goes awoo, and then he turns to Harry, Ron, and Hermione, and he wants to eat them because he's very hungry. Now something very interesting happens just after that. It's Professor Snape. Professor Snape throws himself in front of Harry, Ron, and Hermione and stops Lupin from eating them. Snape does that. We don't know this yet because actually he's good. He is the world's best spy. He is better than James Bond because everyone thinks that Snape is working for them. Actually, Snape is only working for Harry. He is trying to protect Harry because he will be in love with so just one very quick stop before we go across the river. I am sure many of you will recognise this. This is a very famous part of the Harry Potter film series. Say the number. Which number is it?
The third one.
Close, sixth. It's the sixth one. Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. So, at the start of Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, Voldemort has come back. Voldemort has come back. And he is making a statement to the world. He is trying to scare everyone. He is a big dark wizard. Everyone needs to know that he's scary. So at the start of the film, he sends his Death Eaters in the form of clouds of black smoke.
How can I use it as proof?
Exactly right.
Yeah, for you.
So clouds of black smoke fly down from the sky, they wrap themselves around the bridge and they drag it down into the water. And that is how everybody knows that Voldemort is back and Voldemort is angry. It's quite a scary scene. Now it's very, very quick in the films and it's not actually in the books. The reason for it being in the films is quite simple. The director wanted an Oscar, so he packed the film full of moments like this, of really, really over-dramatic moments that are just very big and very grand. In the books, it's a much more slow start. Cornelius Fudge and the Muggle Prime Minister have a polite conversation about Voldemort. So this is a bit more dramatic. It's actually a problem though, because this is the millennium than you'll think. Harry Potter is set in the 1990s. Harry goes to Hogwarts in 1991. The Battle of Hogwarts is 1998. Harry's actually quite old, as old, so this bridge couldn't have actually been here in the film. Now that I'm mentioning this to you, you will all notice it, and it will annoy you. The films never quite figure out when they're set. Quite often you get things like this, where things that shouldn't be here are here. One of the best examples is, a lot of the time you can see newspapers dated from the 1990s in the same scene as iPhones and brand new cars and stuff like that. It's brilliant and it's really good. Any questions? Okay, so what we're going to do now is we are going to take a walk across the bridge. It does wobble, which is quite fun. One day it's going to fall into that building. This is one of the curved
We're trying to get a picture. Why?
Yeah, because if we put them both separate, because they do the multiple tickets.
What we're going to do now is go into Borough Market. Borough Market is possibly the oldest market in the world. There has been a market here for at least 1,000 years, possibly longer. It actually goes on since before records began. It is a great food and drink market, so if you want to come back here outside of the tour, please do so. It's fantastic, lots of great food. It can get really busy inside there though, so please do stick together, keep an eye on each other. We're going to go see one location. I'll keep it quite short, then we'll walk through, and how it's going to work is we're kind of going to talk about it a bit more at the end of the tour. We have several locations now that are all connected, so they'll blur together. Everyone happy? Okay. Sirens outside and someone shouting, that's when you know.
He was asking me why are all these sirens so on here.
It's just okay, so we are at our next stop now. As I say, I am going to keep this one quite quick because of how busy it is, and I will come back to it at the end of the tour. Over here, this is Borough Market. This is the old Victorian shed. Inside there you can get the best food in the world, as far as I'm concerned. But in Harry Potter, it is quite an important location because, exactly right, it is the Leaky Cauldron. So that is how the Leaky Cauldron looks in Harry Potter 3, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. Now this is actually the back of the Leaky Cauldron. We do also see the front of the Leaky Cauldron a lot more, and that's where we'll end the tour, but this is the back. If we look underneath the rail bridge right now, underneath the bridge over there, that is actually the Leaky Cauldron. Nowadays, it's that restaurant, you can just see it, it's called Tacos El Pastor. And in a moment, we're going to walk through there and you can get a look inside. Harry comes here in Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban after he blew up his Aunt Marge like a balloon. She went flying off into space and Harry thought he was going to be arrested, but he wasn't, and when he stayed here for about a week. So you might remember Harry lived in the Leaky Cauldron, and he had a bedroom and he had a fight with a big fluffy textbook called The Monster Book of Monsters. Harry's room was, do we see that yellow building? The top 3 windows is where Harry was living, and you might remember that in the film he used to sit by the window and he was watching the train roll across the rail bridge into London Bridge Station. So inside all of there is the Leaky Cauldron pub, the entrance to Diagon Alley. I will come back to all of this later on, so we're just going to walk straight through now. It gets really busy there, keep an eye on me. As I say, there is the restaurant Tacos Al Pastor. It will be on our right. I'll point it out with my wand. Inside there was the Leaky Cauldron, and you can tell which one it was because they've done quite a cool thing. It's like the Great Hall in Hogwarts. They've got little lights dotted along the ceiling that look a bit like floating candles. So you'll be able to tell which one it is because it looks very Harry Potter-y. This is all still Borough Market, all the Borough area. There's a car behind us, so I'll keep us moving and we'll talk a bit more about it. Okay guys, welcome to our second final stop. A couple of reasons that we've stopped here. So, first of all, if you look over here you can see something quite famous. This is the monument, which is a monument to the Great Fire of London in 1666. That burnt down 80% of London, so it was really bad. And the Great Fire of London started right here, just over there on Pudding Lane, that street. You can see this orange trees across. The main reason I'm stopping here though is because of this. If you look behind me, there's a station right there, a London Underground station. That is the closest train station to the end of the tour. Final stop is just up the road on the right hand side, so it's only 2 minutes walk back here. This is technically Monument Station, but Monument and Bank Station are the same station, so underneath the ground, same place, same trains, just different names, different doors above the ground. So it's right here, the entrance to Monument Bank Station. Now, if you get the train there, you can go somewhere quite interesting. You can get the black coloured line, that's the northern line, about 20 minutes north to King's Cross Station and platform 9 3/4. So I'm sure you can all picture that. Can I find the right page? There we go. You can go and see this. So that's what you'll see at King's Cross. The Hogwarts Express won't be there. That's what King's Cross looks like, and it is King's Cross Station that every September, on the 1st of September, Harry gets the Hogwarts Express to Hogwarts. So, thank you. That's not good. Thank you for that. So every 1st of September, Harry goes to King's Cross Station and gets this train from platform 9 3/4 to Hogwarts. To get to platform 9 3/4, you have to run at the barrier between platforms 9 and 10, and that's the barrier as it stands today. Hurry and run at this barrier, you run inside it and reappear on platform 9 3/4. You might be wondering, if this is the real barrier, why have they put that there? Why have they put a trolley park there? It's a shame, isn't it? Actually, they had no choice, because for 10 years, the most serious injuries at King's Cross Station was
When was that from?
I don't know.
Shall I delete it?
That's actually an attempt
I don't know
to
where it's
disguise
from.
it. JK Rowling actually made a mistake when they came to film here, because she said that Harry runs at the barrier between platforms 9 and 10.
How much do you eat
When
this
they
now?
got there, the filmmakers said,
Must be what you were uploading.
JK, you idiot. Because this barrier, the one that she was thinking of, is not on platforms 9 and 10. It's on platforms 4 and 5. She got the platform wrong. So actually they filmed that between platforms 4 and 5. And if you want to go and see that, they are the platforms that you need to go to. But there is a real platform 9 and 10 at King's across, and that is where you will find the Harry Potter shop. There is a big Hogsmeade, Hogwarts themed Harry Potter shop. You can go try and run through the barrier there as well. There's lots of things to do. So as I say, 20 minutes on the northern line from here will get you to King's Cross Station. Excellent, let's head to our final stop. Okay guys, very well done for making it to the final stop. We are in Leadenhall Market, which is the second oldest market in London, and you can see why Harry Potter came to film here. In a way, this is Diagon Alley. So Diagon Alley is the big wizarding high street. It's where all the wizards do their shopping in London. It's a very important wizarding place. And the way that they do it is several different ways. First of all, they do have an actual Diagon Alley film set, which is where they film most of the scenes on. But then they came to somewhere like this because you can see it basically looks like the Muggle Diagon Alley. So they would have filmed with some of the shops, they would have filmed with some of the alleyways. Most importantly, this is where the front of the Leaky Cauldron is. So earlier on we saw the back of the Leaky Cauldron, the nasty side, the brick side. But the front that we see more commonly, that we see in lots of other films, is right here. And it is now the London Migraine Clinic, that white building over there. Now in the film it looked a bit different. It was painted black and the building was abandoned, so it looks a bit different today. But the first time we see this is in Harry Potter 1, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. So when Harry first goes to Hogwarts, he needs to buy a lot of his school equipment. He needs a wand, he needs spell books, he needs uniform, and to get that he needs to go to Diagon Alley. So Hagrid brings Harry to London, and we see them walking down this street here. They walk through the pavilion, they turn round the corner, and Hagrid takes Harry into the Leaky Cauldron over there. They go inside, they see wizards eating and drinking, and they go through to the back. They go out to the back door where there is a wall, and they tap the wall with their wands, and the wall opens, revealing Diagon Alley itself. So in Harry Potter, Diagon Alley is actually behind all of these buildings here. That's where it is. We can't see it because we're muggles, but all of this is a magical illusion. This does not exist. All of this is just magic trying to disguise the fact that it's actually the wizarding world behind us here. Now there is one really small thing I love about the film. JK Rowling writes that muggles can't ever find the Leaky Cauldron. Every time they come here, it will look like something different. Just like we see today, it's disguised as the London Migraine Clinic. And we actually see that in the film. When Harry and Hagrid are standing here in the film, that building is completely empty and abandoned. With every single step closer they take, we can see it change. The lights start to get brighter, the door becomes a bit nicer, a bit newer, and we can hear wizards eating and drinking. Then the sign, which nowadays says the London Migraine Clinic, when they're really close, suddenly turns into a witch stirring a leaky cauldron. That's how it works. If you're a wizard, the closer you get, the more the magic will get stripped away, and you'll be able to see it's actually a magical pub. Now, final thing for you before we finish the tour, a bit of a behind the scenes secret. A few years ago, there was a Harry Potter reunion here, and some very special guests turned up. It wasn't Harry, Ron and Hermione themselves, it was their picture doubles. So when we're making a movie, we don't always film with the actor that you think we're seeing. Making a movie is a very hard business, you know. We tend to do 15 hours of work a day, and we will have more than one film set going at any one time. One of them will be doing the actors, one of them will be doing the stunts, one of them will be doing the SFX. You can't have those actors there 15 hours a day and in several different places at once. So what we do is that we hire something called picture doubles. Now these people look nearly identical to the actors, you know. They look the same size, they walk the same way, but they're not the actor. And the idea is that we can use these picture doubles in all of those scenes, and unless the camera is really close, you won't be able to tell the difference. So normally when we're watching these films, we're not actually watching the actor, we are watching the picture double. We're only seeing the actor if it's their face and they're talking. Now, a few years ago, the original picture doubles that played Harry, Ron and Hermione came back, and they played Harry, Ron and Hermione again. They walked around here, you could get broom rides with them, drink butterbeer with them, and I'm going to show you a picture of them because it's really going to freak you out. These were the people that you saw a lot of the time while watching the movies, and you never noticed because they are so close. It's weird, isn't it? It's like a weird, terrifying clone thing going on there. They look a bit different now because they're older, but you can imagine when they were younger, they would have looked really, really similar. Anyway, with that stunning secret revealed, that brings us to the official end of the tour. Thank you so much for coming on the tour today. As I say, I will hang around if you've got any questions. Please do get some pictures of the Leaky Cauldron. Monument/Bank Station is down there through the alleyway. Take a left and you'll be back onto the main road. But thank you so much for coming on the tour today. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you so much, guys.